AskReddit. Married men of Reddit. What was that dumb thing you did during your dating phase that you can't believe your wife ended up overlooking? Part 1. I get very nervous around women that are into me, and especially when I know she's watching me do something. Even something trivial. On an early date, we went to the local shop to pick up some things for a picnic, including some gum. I was thinking really hard and aware that I was being watched. I had this. Money on the counter, gum in your mouth, money on the counter, gum in your mouth. Easy. Suffice to say, when I put the gum on the counter and the £2 coin in my mouth, the cashier was baffled and my girlfriend, now wife, was crying with laughter. Turned her down when she suggested we go on a date. Read as, I'm super awkward, I was working for Starbucks. She was a regular customer. I was new in town and noticed her a couple of times. She was a regular customer and we got to some small talk, chatting about places to eat. She said there's an amazing taco place down the road we should go to sometime. I misheard her, thinking she said, you should go sometime. I replied with, I'll definitely check it out. I handed her her drink and she left awkwardly. She was back in the next day, and against all odds, I was able to clear up the misunderstanding, and I wrote my number on her Starbucks cup. We went to that taco place for our first date, and she was right. It was amazing. 3 years married and 2 kids later, really glad she saw through my awkwardness. Oh man, that's my story too. She asked me to go to a dorm party and I said no. She was in my friend zone and I didn't think about her in a dating context. I talked to her a few hours later and asked if I could change my answer. She said okay. We are coming up on 40 years together. Almost ruined because I'm an idiot. I forgot her name once when introducing her to a friend. This was maybe a month into our relationship. I was all like, hey, and by the way, this is, my girlfriend. I have ADD, and every now and then my brain pulls a stunt like this. My mom was the same. As kids, we'd get called by the name of one of our dogs now and then. I thought it was hilarious. My sister, not so much. Not my story, but my parents. Some backstory. My dad has a brother who's only a couple years older. Growing up, they commonly tried to steal food off each other's plates just to be rude to each other. This was remedied by plate guarding and defensive maneuvers with utensils if hands got too close. On my parents' first date, my mom reached for something to try off my dad's plate, and he instinctively stabbed her hand with his fork. Drew blood and everything. He was obviously mortified. Glad my mom was crazy enough to keep dating, marry, and procreate with a fork stabber. My family has the same thing. My sister went on a date with a guy who said, look at the puppy, and took some fries off her plate. The poor guy has no idea the torture my sister, the youngest, has to go through growing up, LOL. All in good fun, we love each other. She laughs when she tells the story, because it seemed all those years bubbled to the top. He didn't get a second date, laughed my ass off. On our second date, I'd arrived 1 hour late. When I went to greet her with a little hug, yep, that's how we greet people around here, I accidentally knocked her phone off her hand. It hit the ground and cracked the screen. But I wasn't sure if it was already cracked. I apologized. She said it was okay and that the screen was already like that before. Almost a year later, she confessed that I actually broke her phone that day. She had just gotten it from her mom. All phones she ever had were secondhand, very simple ones. And she couldn't afford a new one at the time, but still she lied and kept using the broken phone so I wouldn't feel bad. My heart sank. We've been married for 2 years now, and I've given her a brand new flagship phone every year since. Wife was a devout animal lover and activist. Planned a proposal at a fancy Tokyo restaurant that only takes 3 tables a night and has 11 courses, which was filled with all sorts of innovative things, so you're never quite sure what's coming next. In between one of the courses, the chef brings out a cute little glass bowl for us to play with some squid. The chef informs us these are firefly squid that's local to the bay. My wife is delighted and practically named them. 2 courses later they reappeared, as entrees, floating on a glass plate lit up from below and arranged to look like they're swimming. She still said yes, but have never let me forget that I took her on literally the worst dining experience she had, and I had paid the most ever for. Not going to lie, when I saw the words animal lover and Tokyo, the only thing I could think of was you drifted into an animal. Played Weird Al CDs non-stop for a 6-hour car trip to the beach. She didn't ditch me, but haven't been allowed to play Weird Al in her presence for the past 24 years. Got tickets to see him this year on our anniversary, and knew better than to ask her to join me, so I took a couple of my kids that appreciate the finer things in life. Best anniversary gift ever. Great show. The man is a great performer. I never cared about Weird Al much. Appreciated his songs, but wasn't especially a fan, until I saw him play live at a state fair. He doesn't half-ass it, even for a relatively small crowd. Now I love Weird Al. Your wife is missing out. Soon-to-be wife here. When we first met, it was during an introduction class or something like that. He kept kissing the teacher's ass and talking way too much, and just being kind of a show-off. I wanted to punch him in the face. Come to find out, he's in almost all my classes, and for lunch, a couple of girls and I decided to go to McDonald's. He invited himself. I was annoyed. 2 months into our relationship, he confessed that he saw me and was intrigued and wanted to get to know me, so he did everything to get my attention. He's an extrovert, I'm an introvert. I'm surprised he managed to actually get my attention. We've been together for 10 years, getting married on September 23rd. On my first date with my wife, we got talking about tattoos. I have a rule that, if I have an idea for a tattoo, I sit on it for a while to see if I really would still want it. I mentioned this to her and explained how glad I am that I do this because otherwise I'd be covered in Tool, the band, tattoos, or some other dumb shit. She rolled up her sleeve to show me that she had the lyrics to one of their songs tattooed across her arm. Well, did you tell her you liked the band and wanted to tattoo them on your body at some point? That's way better than having to show your Tool lyric tattoo to someone who doesn't even know the band. 5 years ago, after dating for 2 weeks, I accepted a job offer on another continent. I told her we didn't know each other well enough for me to pass up an opportunity like that, and if she was meant to be, it would work itself out. Well, it was meant to be, and we got married this spring. My husband kept calling me by the name of his previous girlfriend on our first date. I finally told him to give her a call because they clearly had unfinished business to talk about. He did, and she reminded him why he was happy to have her out of his life. And he never called me by her name again, 40 years later, and it seems to have worked out in my favor. It's funny how I started out visualizing him picking up his cell phone and calling her. But 40 years ago, he would have had to go to a payphone, remember her number, and hope she picks up. People were indeed more patient back then. My husband broke my thumb one night when we were slightly tipsy. Horseplay got too rough, and I think, drunk memory, he slammed my hand against something. We both heard the pop, and I went to tears. You just reminded me of what I did to my wife back when we were first dating. I was living in a student apartment at college, and we had these twin bed drawers underneath. For some reason, I had a drawer open, but we were laying on the bed. I playfully pushed her off, not realizing the drawer was open, and she fell on top of the drawer. We had a couple of great dates and things were looking promising. Then I got super busy at work and didn't contact her for about 3.5 weeks without giving her a heads up. She decided to move during this time. After things calmed down at work, I text her again. We worked things long distance and finally got married. She reminds me that I didn't ask her out again for a very long time every few months. Not the married man, but on probably our 3rd or 4th date, my man mixed our soups. I got a watermelon gazpacho, a cold soup, and he got a seafood bisque. I'm a sharer, so we both tasted and didn't love mine, but we loved his. After the tasting, he boldly, yet nervously states, "Mine is so great. I got this," while pouring our 2 soups into one. It was the worst lukewarm thing I've ever tasted. 5 years later, and we've never mixed soups again. Too risky. This would make me believe my date was some sort of psychopath. There's no reason that even 2 soups of similar theme should be mixed. It defeats the entire purpose of ordering a specific soup. We drank a lot on our second date. Ubered home. Next day we went to get his car and it wasn't there. He was so devastated. He just bought it recently and it was stolen. We filed a police report. Took forever and just generally sucked. We walked to his friend's house nearby and there was his car, perfectly unstolen. He drank so much he forgot he moved it before our date. Now, once in a while when we're trying to find our car in the grocery store parking lot or wherever, one of us will say, "It's stolen, call the police." My husband did this once too, and he didn't even have the excuse of being drunk. He was visiting someone in the hospital, and when he went to leave, he couldn't find his truck. He looked around for a while, but swore it wasn't where he parked it. He called the police to report it stolen, and the police show up. They end up finding his truck on another level of the parking garage. We live in a pretty small town and own a little store. Occasionally, an officer will stop by to buy a soda or something and ask my husband if his truck has been stolen lately. I was sitting on the couch as we were playing Wii bowling. She was standing behind the couch, lovingly holding me. I drew back the Wii remote and wham! I whack her in the face with the Wiimote and at full strength. Her mom was also in the room. While my wife and I were dating in high school, we went to Six Flags in San Antonio. She had one of those vans where the back hatch pops open with the key fob, but it wasn't the newer kind where they gently and slowly open up. This one flew open like it was a Dumbledore asking if Harry put his name in the goblet of fire. I had bent over to tie my shoe, so my face was in the path of the door when she hit the button and wham! Right into my face. Got a bloody nose and everything. Spent the day looking like Andrew WK. Insisted that everything in San Francisco was walking distance from everything else, and decided we should walk from Pier 39 to Golden Gate Park. It is walkable, but not third date walkable, or whatever shoes she happened to be wearing that day walkable.